So, welcome to tonight's workshop. The title of this is Labor Markets and the Job Jungle. And I am Amanda Stiglbauer. I serve as an FTE mentor teacher, which is one of the absolute best gigs in the whole wide world. And I also teach full time at River Bluff High School here in Lexington, South Carolina. I have my contact information here for you, just in case you want to reach out for anything, whether it be you need some resources from tonight or you just have a new fabulous idea and you want to bounce it off someone. I'm always happy to talk econ or whatever with you. I'll show this again to you guys at the end of the workshop tonight. But without further ado, let's begin. So if you are on Peer Deck, and I hope that you guys are all joining, just to get us started, what is your dream job? I know that we're all probably going to say teacher. I know I feel like I was born to be a teacher. I was teaching my little brother since the time he could walk and talk. But if you have a dream job or any other dream to do other than a teacher, money is not an object. What would you be? And let's see what we have. Teaching econ, nothing else. Absolutely. I completely understand and concur with that sentiment. Teaching others how to teach. Absolutely. Love that role as well. I love my role in helping other teachers be successful, as well as hanging out with high schoolers all day. It's a lot of fun. Someone wants to own a small bed and breakfast. PGA golfer. Tenured university professor. I'd also like to do that. I'm with you. Owning a nursery. So I'm wondering if this is like a kid nursery or is it a greenhouse kind of nursery? Veterinarian. It's a lot of science. Medical doctor. A lot of healthcare in here. Interesting. Dog daycare owner. I feel like at some point, like I just want to be a stay-at-home dog mom. I think that would be a lot of fun. Voiceover actor, really interesting concept for this evening. Teaching art, pilot. Okay. So we have lots of cool things that you guys are interested in. So many of us say that we still just want to be a teacher. This is like our dream job, right? But some of us have other things that we might like to do. And tonight, during our time together, we're going to dive into some of those dream jobs, why some people make a little bit more money than others, and some intricacies that are going on in the labor market right now. Also hope to teach you guys from the teaching teacher side, an activity that you can easily use with your students to teach them about how wages are determined and how job markets work. But before we get to that, let's talk about some active participation for tonight. I love to interact with my audience, and I feel as if your presence is really important so that we can all get out of this the maximum benefit. We want to definitely maximize our total utility tonight, right? So in order to do that for both yourselves and for the other participants who are here, please, if you can, I see Sweet Daddy still has his camera on. Thank you, Ian. Cameras on is active participation. This evening, we will also enter a breakout room from time to time, and your participation is really important in those breakout rooms. So make sure your mics are on, make sure that you're able to communicate in the chat if that's how you choose to do it. Please interact on the Peer Deck slides. Pretty simple. Hopefully you guys can remember how to do that from our COVID days, or hopefully you guys do this on other webinars as well, and just be present. Share the air, make sure that you're here for each other, and that we're here to learn from each other as well. And now that our rules of the game have been established, let's talk about tonight's objectives. So tonight, these are the things that we seek to learn. By the end of this evening, hopefully we can state these I can statements. The first is I can explain how wages are determined in a market. And then secondly, I can evaluate the causes and potential consequences of current labor market trends. We have some really interesting things going on in the labor market right now, some things that have potentially been resolved, some things that are ongoing. We're going to really dive into those this evening after our simulation together. But we wanted to make sure that the things that we talk about tonight are relatable to current events. So hopefully this is something that you guys will enjoy, learn a lot from, and be able to take back to some of your students as well. So let's go ahead and dive in. We have an hour and a half with each other. Might as well get started, right? So let's take a look, just a little glimpse at some of the current labor market statistics. What does the labor market in the United States look like? And as of August 2023, we have a pretty low unemployment rate, right? 3.8% is the unemployment rate. And this is certainly something that has come at an opportunity cost, right? We have a higher inflation rate than we have usually accepted, although that has also gone down. Maybe we're disproving the Phillips curve. I don't know. Kind of makes me sad. But along with this unemployment rate, it's also fun to dive into the different sectors of the economy, the different age groups, different demographics, and see, the 3.8% is just an average, right? But teenagers have been disproportionately affected by the COVID era, and then the continual impacts of the COVID economy. So interesting that teenagers ages 16 to 19 are still hovering a little bit over 10% in the unemployment rate. African Americans have been a demographic that we traditionally see as being impacted harder with the unemployment rate as well. So around 6.4% for that group. The labor force participation rate. So what this tells us is the number of people who are in the labor force, who are currently looking for a job, who currently have a job. These people represent about 62.8%. As of September 11th, so not too long ago, really interesting statistic that I ran across. There were about 9.8 million job openings in the United States, but only 5.9 million unemployed workers. So this is a discrepancy, like a 4 million job discrepancy that really tells us that we still cannot find enough workers to fill the jobs that we have. A lot of that 3.8% unemployment, if you're from econ world, that's frictional unemployment, a lot of it. So it's definitely what we would term as acceptable. Okay, so here's some other things to kind of look at, the current state versus historically. So in 1963, we're looking at the US unemployment rate and the ebbs and peaks of some of the different time periods throughout history. So we see, of course, this date right here when the unemployment rate really spiked. This looks like around 14.5%. That, of course, my friends, is COVID. And then before that, the highest the unemployment rate was at about 10%. What time period was that, my friends? Just quickly unmute yourselves. Help us out a little bit.
Great Recession, the financial crisis?
Oh yeah, the Great Recession, financial crisis. Thank you, Robert. Absolutely. So this is the Great Recession. We have some other recessions that we see in here, a bigger recession here in the early 80s, but nothing like the COVID recession, right? So this has been kind of the going trend throughout the course of the last 50 years. So let's talk about jobs. Okay, so we talked about some of the jobs that we would have if we were to get our dream jobs. Very good, right? We can all dream, but we often like to steer our students, yes, to follow their dreams, but also to consider what jobs are still going to be around for their career. So let's think about this. No cheating, my friends, but what are some of the fastest growing jobs in the United States? If you'll go ahead and type in your responses. And the reason we look at the growth rate of these jobs is because, yes, we want the jobs to be around for our students as they continue to age, but also the jobs that are growing the fastest are in highest demand. And as we look into the labor market this evening, of course, we're going to look at wages. And the jobs that have a really rapidly growing percentage of demand obviously will have higher wages as well. All right, so let's see what you smarty pants came up with. All right, tech, data analyst, medical health care, taking care of the elderly. Yeah, I mean, people are living longer. I also teach AP Humans. So like my brain is thinking like these population pyramids right now that I taught about earlier. And certainly tech, AI, 100%. We're going to talk a little bit more about AI this evening. Medical, nursing, teaching, construction, data scientists, software engineers, funeral directors, really interesting. Yeah, sometimes you get some random stuff. Like a few years ago, it was like bicycle repairmen. So there are some random things that we find. Trades, yeah. Heard something on NPR this morning that's really talking about the importance of parents instilling that trades are extremely important as well. Okay, so let's do the big reveal. Over the next, I don't know, 10 years, what are we going to find? Between 2021 and 2031, here are some of the fastest growing occupations in the US. Nurse practitioner is definitely at the top. Physicians, assistants, those are very similar. There are just a couple of distinctions between the two of them. But those are careers that are really, really skyrocketing, as well as medical and health service managers. We see for sure a lot of increase in the medical field, as you guys predicted. There are some others here as well, like we're going to talk about animals tonight too. Animal caretakers. Someone said that might be one of their top career choices, their dream jobs. So we are increasingly treating our animals like their children. You may hear one of my animal children in the background tonight. He's a little jealous that I'm talking to you and not to him. He's really, really, really jealous. So you may hear him in the background, but yeah, I treat him like my baby, just as you guys probably do for your animals as well. And some of these things are also predictable. Yeah, a lot of tech stuff, right? There's some athletic pieces, as well as like wind turbine service technicians. Many times like solar panel installers have been on here as well. And that just leads to the talk about sustainability and how a lot of times like going green will lead to some of those faster growing occupations as well. So why are those important? Well, again, we want to encourage students and ourselves to follow our dreams, but we also have to make sure that the jobs that we are looking at are going to be around in the future. And we obviously want to bring in that financial literacy component as well to show students that these are jobs that are in high demand, which typically leads to higher wages as well. Okay, so a few statistics. There have been some tremendous employment changes by industry. And we're just going to compare a 1 month time period. But as you see, healthcare is so important. We have a 97.3 increase in employment related to healthcare and social assistance. Leisure and hospitality is really growing now that we feel like we have more money to spend. The unemployment rate has gone down, and COVID seems to be a thing of the past, right? The construction of new homes, other commercial establishments as well has led to a boom in the construction industry. And then, of course, some of these others you guys can read for yourselves, but professional and business services as well. Note some on here. Educational services, not looking too hot. The growth rate is not tremendous. So let's think about that. So what factors influence how much people are paid? Sometimes this is a difficult question for teachers because, I think I work so hard and my students do so well and I love my kids and I love my job, but I still get paid the same as the person who is sitting beside me showing a movie, right? So in the world, what influences how much people are paid? And as we think about teaching our students this, how would we tell them that they would determine potentially how much they'll make in the future? What would their earning potential be like? So yeah, go ahead and submit your responses. And I'll give you guys about 1 more minute to see what you can get in. Does my sense of humor influence how much I'm paid as a teacher? Do my test scores influence how much I'm paid as a teacher? Or do I just have a set salary schedule based on my years of experience and my education level? In South Carolina, it's pretty standard. My education level and I think I'm in year 17 now, 17 years of experience, that determines my pay. All right, so let's see what you guys say. All right, so the demand of the specific talent, demand and supply. All right, we have some econ teachers in here. Good. Skills and knowledge, quality and experience. How valuable are your skills? How many people can do what you do, right? So when we think about like Taylor Swift, well, how many people can get teenage girls all excited to dress up and go to a concert and listen to all of her albums on Spotify or whatever their streaming service is? Be super duper creative in the signage that they create. I don't know anyone else who can do that. And then pay hundreds of dollars or even thousands of dollars for a ticket. Where you live and work. Scarcity. Oh, marginal revenue. That's real econ-y. Have maybe a micro teacher here. The marginal revenue product. Good. The contribution to revenue, tenure in education, their productivity. We see a lot of these. A lot of these are duplicates, and that's great because they're right. How much their work is valued by those in power. That's deep. Tax rates, experience. How unique you are. Supply and demand. Yeah. Who pays for it? So the state government is low pay except for police officers and firefighters. Here it's low pay for all of those. But I'm glad that some of those public servants are paid well. All right, and your credentials, good. So you guys, as adult learners, have a really good handle on this. We have to think also what our students would say, but these are things that they could easily surmise, right? Bring in examples like Taylor Swift and some of the highly paid professional athletes. Those are things that they can really relate to. So quickly, labor demand depends on 2 big factors. And you guys hit on both of these factors in your Pear Deck. Number 1, it does depend on the productivity of the labor, right? The more productive I am, the theory goes is the higher my wage will be, right? The more in demand I will be as a worker, and the higher wage my labor will attract. Secondly, in order to earn a higher wage, we produce products that are in high demand. So your demand for labor depends on the demand for the product that you produce as a worker. If you produce something in high demand, like beautiful concert music, and you're also productive at the same time and go on tour lots and lots and do many different shows, maybe even multiple in the same city over the course of the weekend, then that contributes to your high wage, right? So being that The demand for labor depends on the demand for the product that that labor produces. We refer to this concept in the labor market as derived demand for labor. And so what that means is if you think about like what the term derived means that it is taken from something. You can even talk to your mathy students, your calculus whizzes. What does the derivative mean? Well, it's taken from something. So when we talk about the demand for labor being derived demand, it means that the demand for a laborer's work is taken from the demand for the product that that labor produces. So that labor demand curve is downward sloping. And as you guys said in Pear Deck, that competitive markets, the wages are determined by the intersection of supply and demand, right? So how much are we paid? Well, what does the demand for my labor look like? A couple of you also mentioned, like, are there other people who can do the same thing as you can? That relates to the supply of labor. If I'm unique, I'm just an econ whiz and no one else can do econ, then the supply is relatively low. And so this means that my wages are a lot more competitive than if someone else can, or many other people can do my job. So as we talked about earlier, the demand in the labor market comes from the employer's hiring decisions. It is based on, of course, the productivity of the worker and the opportunity cost of hiring one worker over another worker, or if they could buy the machine instead, if they could automate you, if they could create a teacher who was just online, right? Your work could be done by a robot teacher or AI, right? And then the supply of workers comes from the household, you as workers. In order to supply labor, we consider a few things. We consider the wages. What are the working conditions like? Not all schools pay the same. So what are the working conditions like? What are the opportunity costs of those jobs? Accepting other job offers. Also, we have to consider, would it just be better for us to, I don't know, sit on the beach all day? Be leisurely. So as you guys in your Pear Deck said, in the labor market, an equilibrium wage emerges. It is not set by anyone. It emerges between the interaction of workers who supply the labor, us, and then employers who demand labor. And so that intersection creates a going equilibrium wage rate and a quantity of labor that is hired in that labor market. So labor supply, our willingness and ability to supply our labor also is something that we have to consider in terms of opportunity costs, one of the basic concepts of economics, right? So as we think about working, whether it be in teaching or in our dream job, we have to consider the opportunity cost of working, the next best alternative that we are not choosing when we choose to work. So I'm choosing to work tonight. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a lot of fun with you guys, and we're going to have even more fun a little bit later. But what is my opportunity cost? Well, I am not hanging out with my daughter, studying for her social studies test with her right now. I'm not hanging out with my husband and having dinner as a family, right? For students, this may look more like hanging out with their friends, studying for some of their classes, working around the house for us, maybe, or maybe even opening our own business, our own bed and breakfast, or our own doggy daycare. So we frequently look at labor supply as this decision between, do we work? Do we have leisure time, or some mixture of the two of them? So as the wage rate increases, the labor supply curve is upward sloping because our opportunity cost of leisure, enjoying time away from work, becomes greater. And people decide to consume less leisure so that they can work instead, since the wage rate has gone up. And so that's why the labor supply curve is upward sloping. As one of you said in the chat box, MRP is also something that determines what your wage rate is, right? So labor demand can be synonymous with the labor's marginal revenue product. When we look at labor demand and how much labor is going to be hired, firms must consider the marginal costs and the marginal benefits of hiring those workers. So, in general, our rule goes something like this. We know supply equals demand, marginal benefit equals marginal cost. Our marginal benefit curve can be thought of as a demand curve, while a marginal cost curve can be thought of as a supply curve. MRP equals the wage rate is no different than that. What this means, boiled down, is that an employer will want to hire you as long as they can pay you up to what you're worth to them. So your worth is shown to you by your marginal revenue product. And as you guys said earlier, it takes really two big things into account: your productivity, okay, your marginal product, and the revenue that you bring in, the price of the good that you sell. Okay, and we equate that with the rate, the wage rate. So an increase in the demand for the product that you're producing will thus lead to an increase in the demand for workers who produce that product. Again, the concept of derived demand. So I'm glad that one of you said that maybe a doggy spa or a doggy daycare or something like that would maybe potentially be on your radar. But this is just one last example of how potentially we will look at the concept of derived demand. So assuming that young adults choose to spoil their dogs instead of having children, how does that relate to the market for doggy daycare workers? We have set up on our graph here the wage rate, which takes the place of the price. A wage is the price for labor and the quantity of labor hired. And in this case, as young adults choose to spoil their dogs, they have an increased demand for those doggy daycares and thus the workers at the doggy daycare facility. So because of this increase in demand or shift to the right of demand, what we find is the wage rate increases from W star to WE to form a new equilibrium. So the wage rate rises. So that's how the labor market works. It's just a market, nothing really different. And to demonstrate that tonight, we are going to do an activity that we call the job jungle. Just real quick, and I'm going to stop sharing so I can see your faces for a minute. In your Zoom screens, raise your hand if you have done the job jungle before. No one's done the job jungle. Okay, cool. All right, I am going to need 2 volunteers. The volunteers, I need someone who is good with a Google Doc. Actually, 2 people who are good with Google Docs, and I may have a little prize for you for being volunteers. So if you're willing to volunteer for me tonight, drop your name in the chat for me. All right, Varun, you are my first. And Miranda, thank you. Okay, so Varun, raise your hand like you just don't care. Wave your hands in the air. Yay. Okay, that's Varun. Welcome. And then our second volunteer is Miranda. Raise your hands in the air just like you don't care. Okay, fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys introduce yourselves. And guess what? You are our employers tonight. You will have a very special job in the job market. And I just want to give you guys a second to introduce yourselves. You can be as creative as you want to, but you have 30 seconds to introduce yourself and, you know, maybe tell us why we should love you. Go.
Were you talking about Miranda and I or everyone? I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Varun, you go first and then we'll follow up with Miranda.
Okay. Good afternoon, y'all. I teach, or should I say, I stand in front of the room and talk about economics at a junior college just south of Houston. And you should love me because I have the cutest golden doodle on the planet right over there. I'm trying to get her to come on camera. Sinu, come here, baby girl. Come. Let me show
Okay,
you off, honey.
Varun, you have won all the things because I'm a mini golden doodle mom too. I'm just kidding. Miranda, you're next.
I'm Miranda Porteous. I teach at Coppell High School in Coppell, Texas, AP Macro and Microeconomics. You want to work for me because I have a cat that could care less about anyone being around him.
Okay, so if you're a cat lover, go to Miranda. If you're a dog lover, go to Varun. Fair enough. Great. Okay. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you volunteering. For my volunteers, Miranda and Varun, I placed a document in the chat box for you. If you'll click on that document and make your own copy, I'll explain what you're going to do with it later. But tonight, they're going to be our employers. So you definitely want to make a good impression on them tonight. Okay. Thank you guys for being my volunteers. Let's get back to it. Okay, so how does the job jungle work? Well, as you can imagine, this works swimmingly in a classroom with vibrant students, right? So this is a modification of the job jungle that we have done in order to help facilitate this activity online. No matter what your job is throughout the job jungle, whether you're an employer or an employee, all of this information is relevant and pertinent to you. So even if you want to click on the document that I've shared with our employers, that can certainly help you as an employee as well. So everyone else is going to act as people who are seeking to find a job. But there are some instructions first, right? Let's figure out how we look at data as it relates to the labor market. So we'll pretend at first that we have one kitchen, and in our kitchen, we make pizzas because pizzas are delicious. And in our pizza kitchen, we can decide how many workers we hire. And here's what happens. Obviously, if we have 0 cooks in the kitchen, unless we're like teleporting pizzas from somewhere or doing some kind of magic, we make 0 pizzas. So what happens is there's no cook and no pizza. By hiring the first cook, that first cook can make 10 pizzas. So the additional number of pizzas from hiring this cook is 10. What do we call the additional number of pizzas? Anyone can just kind of shout it out if you'd like.
Marginal.
Yeah, that's our marginal product. Very good. So anytime we look at the term additional, it means marginal. So our marginal product is 10. This happens because, yes, this is a really good cook, but it really stinks because that cook is doing it all by himself. So we'll be nice and say, we're going to allow your kitchen to hire one more cook. And so with the hiring of that cook, we now make 25 pizzas. That could feed like one of my classes with everybody having a whole pizza apiece, right? And the additional number of pizzas attributable to that cook is 15, right? So the total product or the number of pizzas increased by 15. Why does this happen? Well, what you start to see is specialization, right? You have a division of labor where one is the baker and one person is prepping everything and serving as the waiter or waitress, okay? And then we'll continue to look at what happens as we continue to add cooks. And the number of pizzas is going to increase until we hit that 5th worker. When we hit that 5th worker, things aren't so hectic, but that 5th worker is not actually adding anything additional to production, right? So what is that 5th worker doing? What is he or she worth? Oh, I don't know. What about 6 cooks? Real quickly, in the chat, would you hire the sixth cook? Would you hire cook number 6? Okay, we are saying no, 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 no. No, no, no. All right, you guys are right. So what's happening with this 6th worker? Well, they're destroying pizzas. Like, what are they doing? Are they eating 15 pizzas? Did they like bring in the beer and bring in the party and spill the beer all over the pizzas? I don't know, but we need to get out of Mary's way because Mary is destroying pizzas. Okay, you guys are smart on that, but let's see how much you know. What is the most you would be willing to pay for the 4th cook, assuming that pizzas are $10 per pizza? So assume that pizzas are $10 per pizza. How much would you be willing and able to pay that 4th cook? And y'all can drop that in the chat when you're ready. How much would you be willing to pay that 4th cook? Okay, got some different things coming in. All right, the maximum amount that we would pay that 4th cook is $100. How do we get that? Well, the marginal product is 10, right? So the 4th worker adds 10 pizzas to production. And we said that each pizza can be sold for $10. So 10 times the $10 that you can sell each one for, that worker is worth $100. Okay. So we would pay them $100 or less, right? Any questions on that? So that just goes to the fact that direct demand is derived. It is derived from your marginal product, which measures your productivity, and it is derived from the price of the product that you produce. So tonight in our simulation, there will be 2 types of jobs. One of them represents unskilled labor, which everyone has to be at first, right? We can't just all magically have an education and be super duper skilled and special. Everyone in our kite factory at first will be unskilled. And so what your jobs will look like is this. You'll be taking orders, cutting the patterns, sewing, printing, delivering, packing, doing things like that. Okay. Our pink jobs on the right-hand side are skilled worker jobs. And those skilled worker jobs only happen after the first round and only if you have the money to achieve an education. So the types of jobs that you have for skilled work are designers, advertisers, accountants, bookkeepers, all of those things that may require like a further education. But at first, everyone is an unskilled or a low skilled worker. So let's figure out how this kind of works out for us in practice. A little cheat sheet for you guys. I will go ahead and drop this in the chat one more time so that y'all can all have the cheat sheet. When you do this with your students at your school, there are blank sheets that you can do with them. But for the purpose of our time together tonight, I want to make sure that we have ample opportunity to finish. So what you guys have in front of you is what the employers will have on their employer card. Okay. And we are told that the price of kites is $10. We can hire yellow card workers as employers, Verena Miranda. We can hire purple card workers who are skilled workers later on. Okay, so the first worker hired is going to make 5 kites. And that first worker hired is going to add to the marginal product. For some reason, my effect is not working, but have no fear. Let's pivot. Okay, so we'll just pivot to the activity sheet that I've distributed to you guys. So what we can do is calculate the marginal product. We have the number of kites made, and this is a given number. This is just a set number for us. We figure out how much additional product that each of those workers makes. And then because the price of kites is $10, we can calculate our marginal revenue product, the price times the marginal product, by simply taking the MP times the price of the kites. And this P times MP is going to give us how much these individual workers are worth to us. Okay, so again, you're not going to want to pay your first worker more than $50. Your second worker, you're not paying more than $30, etc. Skilled workers, same process, but you're just going to have some different numbers. And that's because we would assume that our skilled workers are a little more productive, right? So that, my friends, is a little explanation of the job jungle. And most of you are workers tonight. Your goal as a worker is to make some money. The more money, the better. And you're going to obviously use your income to buy all the things. Workers will earn income by finding an employer who will hire her for a mutually acceptable wage rate. Every worker is going to start with some money, as indicated on the next slide. So when I flip to the next slide, all the workers write down how much money you're starting with. And this is because you have particular factor endowments. Maybe some of you are really smart in the Mensa Club. Maybe some of you are just really savvy seamstresses or whatever. Everybody is going to start with some dollar amount on their next slide. So here's your value as a worker. Everyone, with the exception of Verena Miranda, you have some initial starting cash. If your name begins with A through G, you start with $9. If your name begins with H through P, my daughter's names begin with H, says obviously the most valuable, you're valued at $10. Next, 7, Q through V, and then W through Z, $5. So write your number down, and that's how much money you have initially. Let's just call it savings. As a worker, you will begin with a yellow card. And I'm going to say like a virtual card because everybody's a yellow card worker at first. When you do this activity with your kiddos in person, you'll actually distribute yellow and purple cards to them. You may not negotiate for a purple card unless you have a yellow card. So I'm now bequeathing all of the yellow cards to you. Your job is going to last for one round. At the beginning of each round, you, my friends, are unemployed. The wage in each round is what you determine between the person who is hiring you, the employer, and yourself. You can only be hired one time. No side gigs, no second jobs, no, I don't know no lighting, whatever that term is. Anyways, just one job. When you're done with that and find that one job, you are done for that round. If you agree to be hired by an employer, the employer is going to enter the wage on their employer record card. So Verena Miranda, you guys have those Job Jungle employer record cards. Make sure that once you make a deal that you have recorded it before you make a new one. Once you make a deal, workers and employers, you cannot back out on it to look for a better offer. You are done. When you get a job, workers, return to the main room and total how much income you have. So the income that you will have is what I gave you to begin with and the money that you earn from either Verena or Miranda. So those are my workers. At the end of each round, workers, I will give you the opportunity to get an education. And in order to get an education, you'll have to at least have $25. You need to have $25 to your name. Okay. So when you decide to do this, I'll make an announcement at the end of the rounds. You will add together your initial endowment plus your wages earned. And if you have 25 total dollars on the Peer Deck screen that will look just like this, you'll enter your name, the total amount that you've earned, and then the amounts on your card after you've purchased a $25 education. Oh, if education was that cheap. Okay, so now that we have talked about our workers, we are now going to turn to our employers. The employer's goal is obviously to make a profit, right? The more the better. Keep on producing those kites. To make a profit, you make those kites. And obviously, you have to hire workers. With every round except the first, you're going to hire yellow card or low skilled workers and purple card workers who are high skilled. Second round only. You're going to refer to your output charts that I shared with you in making your decisions. Not all workers are the same value to you. Notice that. The output scales are going to be different. So if you hire 2 yellow card workers and then for the third worker, hire a purple card worker, that's going to be worker number 1 for your purple card. Okay, so you don't have to start with 3. If you're an employer, the wage is for 1 round only. At the beginning of the next round, you'll start an entirely new process. There are no contracts. So when you hire a worker, write that wage on your record sheet. Again, just like the worker, you cannot back out on any deal that you have made once you've had that agreement. Also record the hire in the wage paid column so that you can help calculate your profit. And at the end of each round, Varun and Miranda, I chose you because I know you're good at math and I know that you're going to be amazing employers. So make sure that you figure your profits at the end of each round.
Amanda, just, sorry.
Yeah.
I've
go
lost
ahead.
the plot a little bit. So each round we can only hire, the first round we can only hire 2 yellow. I'm
Oh,
sorry,
no.
I
You
really
can
missed
hire
it.
as many as you want to.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I thought there was some restrictions in the first round or something.
No, so you can only hire yellow card workers in the first round,
Okay,
not pink card workers, but you're not going to have any pink card workers. So
But I can hire as many yellow card workers as I want.
as you want.
Okay, I
That
understand.
is correct.
I think, thank you.
Good. No, you're welcome. Of course. Of course. Everyone, your total income and profits are going to be cumulative. So whatever you have from round 1 will go into round 2 as well. Round 2 will go into round 3, etc. Okay, so workers will enter your initial endowment, which is the value that I've given you, and the income received in each round. The employers will add the profits generated in all of their rounds to complete your total profits. Incentives do matter, my friends. So the highest employer and the highest employee at the end of our game will receive a $10 Amazon gift card each. So incentives do matter. Before I pop you into your breakout rooms this evening, what questions do you have? Whether you are an employer or an employee, do you have any questions?
For the employees that I hire, the first person hired is that first line in the marginal product, and then the second person hired is the second line. You can't switch them around.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And we're going to let this occur relatively organically. You guys are going to be sent out into 2 breakout rooms. One breakout room will have Miranda in it. That's breakout room 2. And the other breakout room will have Varun in it. You may use any means of communication that you'd like in order to secure a wage deal. Get it? Got it?
Amanda, do
Varun?
the future potential workers, do they have access to the
Good question.
our MRP stuff?
Good question. They do for this game. So you might want to make it go quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, great question. Great question. When you
Okay.
guys do this with your students, you don't want to share that information with them.
Yeah, it makes sense because in a virtual format, I guess. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So I'm going to open the rooms, and once you have your job, come back to the main room. Happy hunting. Okay, friends, it looks like I am going to need to close this other breakout room. We're going to close them all. I think we have almost all of our participants back. Thank you for coming back. Raise your hand if you found a job, friends. Okay, awesome. So Varun, how many workers did you hire in this first round?
I hired 2, which I understood to be the max.
Okay, I hear you. You got 2. How many did you get, Miranda?
I hired 5.
Okay, you hired 5. Okay, very good. Now in this next round, you guys, you can hire as many workers as you want to, as many as
I
you can
misunderstood.
afford.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay. It is totally fine. Not a problem. But before we dive into the next round, question: does anyone want to get an education?
I'm sorry, I wasn't understanding. So I was hired, but I'm not sure how many hours I got, and I'm not sure how many dollars I earned.
Whoever hired you should just give you a flat fee, Raymond.
So it was, Varun, was that the $10 or?
20, Raymond, is what we agreed on.
20?
Yeah, we were
20.
20.
Thank you.
Okay. Perfect.
I'd like to buy an education then, please.
Okay, so if you want to buy an education, we are on that screen in Peer Deck. So if you'll type in your name for me, how much money you've earned so far, and that will be my cue to create a skilled worker in you. So again, any worker who has $25 or more. Michelle, did you have a question?
Yeah, so if I'm only, since I'm yellow, right, and my name was Mar, do I only get $10? That's all I have, right? Because I didn't get
Yep.
hired.
Correct.
So if someone wanted to hire me for $20, I could have gone there. It didn't matter
Yeah.
whatever I wanted, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You are welcome. Okay. So I have so far 2 people who have an education. Scott and Ray are currently our skilled workers. Is there anyone else who wants to become a skilled worker before I give you instructions for the next round?
So I can't get it with the student loan?
No, no loans. Great question, Michelle. All righty. So we have a couple of skilled workers in our midst. Before we move to the next round, just want to make sure that my employer friends understand how to calculate their profits. So this looks similar to your profit sheet, but yours is in a Google Doc. So for those yellow card workers, you're going to list the wages that you paid them, right? And then what you're going to do for the next step in this is you will look at how many kites those particular workers made. So if you hired 2 workers, your total product is 8 kites, right? So in order to calculate your total revenue, you're going to take the output, which would be 8, times the price of the kites, which is 10. And then therefore your total revenue would be 80. Okay. And then you're going to add up the wages that you paid to your yellow card workers. So if you had 2 workers and you paid one $20 and you paid the second one $10, then your wages would be 30. Okay, so our total cost would have been 30. And then to calculate profit for my my employer friends, total revenue of 80 minus your total cost of 30, just a hypothetical profit would be 50. Okay. And just as our friends who are employees, your profits are cumulative. Okay. So that profit rolls over into the next round. Okay. I'm sorry, we can't borrow. I don't have the power to allow you to borrow, but I can let you do another round. So in this next round, everything is the same, my friends. We're going to take about 6 minutes, and I am going to now send you back. Oh, Ray, go ahead.
Quick question. Thank you. Is there going to be a round 3 or are we stopping at 2?
Good question. Okay. So I'd planned a round 3, but I think for the sake of time, we're only going to do 2 rounds because we want to get to some of the other content as well.
Thanks.
And Amanda, I guess I had hired Scott and Raymond in the first round, but that doesn't matter anymore. It's a whole new round.
Does not matter anymore.
Oh, see, I thought
you
you said they can't back out or whatever. So I thought I had them for life or something.
No,
Okay.
just for that round.
I now have higher skills, Varun. So
Yeah, see that.
work anymore.
Okay, I think I'm just going to surrender to Miranda.
You're
right
going to
now, 'cause
surrender.
I totally misunderstood almost every part of the directions.
It's okay.
But
you are good. You
will
understand
live
it this time, and you're going to kill it.
I'm going to make it happen.
You're going to make it
Okay.
happen. All right. So I've shuffled your breakout rooms a little bit. Now I'm going to open them, and I will see you guys back here in 6 minutes or less. Well, how did it go this time, friends? Raise your Zoom hand or your hand in your screen if you got a job this time. Okay, cool. So just real quickly in the chat, if y'all will share with me what your wages were, because this is the last round, it doesn't matter. How much did you negotiate? Okay. And this is for the purpose of like everyone else kind of a whopping $5. Wow, Raymond got 70. Good job. And if you guys recall, Ray got him some learning at the school. He got his education. Who else was my skilled worker?
Me, Scott.
Scott.
I got 40. I was reacting to the
40.
had to leave the breakout room. Had to leave the breakout room. So
when push comes to shove.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I wanted something. I should have said something higher since I was the only skilled person in the room.
True.
That's the other thing I didn't realize. I thought maybe Raymond was also in the room. So I didn't want to go too high.
Yeah.
I didn't look quick enough.
Didn't see who else was in the room. Well, hey, nice job, guys. Y'all did a fabulous job with this. So what was the purpose of this? It's to show students how wages are determined in a labor market. And this really just gives us a simulation format of how to do that. The job jungle works in a very similar fashion as any type of regular market would work in your classes. So if you've done the wheat market, the pearl market, any type of market simulation, this one is similar. It's just with the labor side of the market. So for those of you who were able to get jobs, how did the first round differ from the second? Is there anything notable that you noticed?
Seems like more people got jobs the second round.
Yeah. I see some of you guys typing in the chat too. less competition due to education, more money. The employer made the offer first. Just a good notice. Very good. For Miranda, if you and Varun will share with me your documents, I will figure out who the highest was. Did anyone, Ray, how much money did you get total?
I had $2 left after my education fee, and then I made another 70, so I wound up with 72.
Wow.
Did anyone make more than $72? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, Ray, you are going to be awarded the highest scoring employee, and it will remain to be seen for the employers. I will just get you guys to share in the chat. I think that's what you have already done. So anywho, thank y'all for playing. And hopefully that's something that you can do with your kiddos. As you think about completing this in your own classrooms, just some words for the wise. The Job Jungle is fantastic. It is a really good way to introduce how wages are determined in a factor market to your students. But I will say, like, it is one of the more challenging market simulations to run. So a couple of things to keep in mind. Make sure you have your copies run off. Make sure, I would say one of the great things about the FTE website is that there are video demonstrations of these lessons. And one of the ways to make sure that you're successful is to go through and just watch the 10 or 15-minute video clip about how this works out in a classroom. You guys had hopefully a good experience tonight on seeing like how this works in kind of a micro simulation, but it does get very much like a jungle in a classroom. The screaming and the yelling and the fighting. I love that kind of thing. So just make sure that you can embrace that chaos. I think that chaos is really a wonderful thing in a classroom as long as it's organized chaos, and this is one of those cases. Make sure that when you choose the employers, that you choose people who can follow directions and people who are relatively decent with math. Anyone can be an employee. If you have a large class of students, you will absolutely want to make sure you have 4 to 5 employers so that people have a decent opportunity to get a job. You may also want to have someone act as the educator or teacher who students can go to throughout the course of the game or at the end of each round to get their education. That kind of helps you out and takes some of the pressure off of you. And then set a time. If you guys notice on the slides that will be shared with you, I set a timer as well. So those are kind of already in there for you. And the last thing is be ready to embrace the anomalies. So one of the anomalies that happened this summer at UC Berkeley was that students decided that they wanted to go on strike and form a labor union. Go figure at UC Berkeley, right? So with that in mind, let's talk about some labor unions. Labor unions have been increasingly in the news as of late. And you know, some really high profile things are going on right now. So over the past 50, 60 years, labor union participation has really gone down. So in the 1950s, we saw like 1 in 3 workers was generally part of a union. Now that status stands at about 10% or 1 in 10 workers. But with the recent focus on labor organization and collective bargaining, about 67% of Americans, when polled, are in support of labor unions. So what in the world is going on in the United States as it relates to organized labor? Why do people generally support collective bargaining? Well, one of the big reasons is because when we look at the different fringe benefits and amenities offered to union members, they generally exceed those of non-union members. So there are obviously advantages there: retirement benefits, the pensions, the life insurance, childcare and paid sick leave. All of those tend to be greater fringe benefits when we consider unionization versus non-unionization. Ray, you got your hand raised?
Thank you. Do you have a source for this information? that's on the slide?
Yes. So all of this, so this one is particularly from the US Treasury report. And then when you guys receive the slides, all of the sources are cited in the notes under each of the slides too.
Terrific.
Yeah,
Thank
so-
you very much.
Of course, of course. This one also is from the U.S. Treasury Department, showing that union membership and inequality have some type of relationship. So one of the things in their most recent study put out in favor of unionization is that union membership tends to alleviate some income inequality. And as you guys know, unions can be highly politicized, right? In no way, shape, or form is Amanda here to tell you about any political views, whether to join a union or not. We're just kind of looking at these from the case study point of view, because it is definitely a current event. So the why of this. So there have been some recent strikes or threat of strikes over the past year, as we are listening to NPR like I do every morning. The United Auto Workers has really been even on Up First every morning because of their most recent strike, maybe even accelerating that as of Friday. The Writers Guild of America, railroads have threatened strikes, I think back in the summer. UPS threatened to take down some of the FTE operations and our shipping to different locations. So at the end of the summer. So yeah, all of these have been very recent strikes or threats of strikes. Hospital strikes as well, especially, I know there are several like in California that were planned and happened as well. And then some labor organizing campaigns even happen at Amazon, Starbucks, Trader Joe's, and all of these are really focused on the rights of workers. So we're going to dive in real quickly to some of the why and what these workers are trying to achieve from two of the biggest strikes that are currently going on now. First one is the United Auto Workers, which combines the big three in the United States, Ford, GM, and Stellantis. Stellantis is kind of the parent company now of Jeep and Chrysler and some other car manufacturers. And so they're calling their strike the stand-up strike, and they say that it's different than other strikes because this is the first time that they have been able to, on the scale that they have, organize the big three together, sticking together. And the stand-up strike is kind of like a gradual walkout. So it kind of happens in waves and in shifts. And it's actually kind of interesting if you dive into the UAW's website, just looking at their messages and what their plan is, how they've organized together, whether you like unions or not, it's highly interesting and engaging. So they've set their next deadline for their stand-up strike for Friday at noon. They have been wearing red shirts on Wednesdays. I've seen some, different types of things like on Wednesdays we wear red and things like that. But they are extremely relatively organized and pretty motivating to the workers who have some particular demands that they want to see achieved. So what is it that they want? Well, they want about a 40 to 46% pay raise. Nothing too big, right? They believe they're really citing the fact that the CEOs and a lot of the higher ups have been seeing a huge increase in their salaries, anywhere between 21% and 77% of a raise over the past 4 years. And so they see this as unfair. Said a 4-letter econ word, right? They demand a shorter work week. Me too, right? Pension packages. They also cite the fact that these 3 big auto manufacturers have been extremely profitable over the past several years. The price of new cars has risen over the past 3 years by $10,000. And auto workers have this feeling, this chip on their shoulder, that they sacrificed a lot during the Great Recession, and they feel like this is just their time. So these are the reasons behind the strike. And we always like to see, like, what impact could this potentially have on us? So the economics behind this particular strike, we can graph it out, right? Just a basic supply and demand diagram. So what is happening is when a strike happens, there is a reduction in the availability of workers who will serve to, create more automobiles. And because workers are walking off the job in this stand-up strike, there has been a shift to the left in the workers. And then in the market for automobiles, because there are fewer workers, there's a lower supply of cars. So your supply curve here will shift to the left, driving the price of automobiles up even more. So that reduction in the supply of new cars and new automobiles is going to continue to lead to higher new car prices. As a consumer, this has a direct impact on you, especially if you're in the market for a car anytime soon. Now, there's also one more huge strike that's going on now. And just real quickly, tell me what your favorite binge-worthy show is. And this is kind of a key to what we're going to look at next as we wrap it up. Ozark. Yes. You guys are my people. Shark Tank is a great one. Yeah, give me some good recommendations, friends. Better Call Saul. Okay. Walking Dead. And I'm just kind of curious too, as we talk about one of the other recent strikes, if yours has been affected. Lucifer. Yes, that's a great show too. Breaking Bad, Walking Dead. Yeah, anything on Netflix. All right. Cool. Thanks, guys. I hate to rush y'all through that. So this is what I'm going to binge after this workshop, because as you might notice with my dialect, I'm from South Carolina, and this happened about an hour from home. So this second season of the Murdaugh Murders, A Southern Scandal, is out on Netflix as of today. And this is what I will be sitting in bed with my popcorn binge watching tonight until I fall asleep. I can't wait. But I'm glad that it was produced before these workers went on strike. So the Writers Guild of America, this is actually not a new strike. I know in our lifetimes, we've probably seen several of these, but I kind of got down a rabbit hole looking at some of their signs. I think they're pretty hilarious and punny. So right now, the Screenwriters Guild is on strike, and you may have noticed or may not have noticed. But one of the huge reasons I thought was interesting that they are currently striking is because of the threat of AI. They are increasingly, as actors and as writers, impacted by AI copying their digital images, their likeness, taking the writer's talent. So they are demanding regulations be placed on the uses of AI. But the big question is how? Streaming services like our beloved Netflix have really seemed to erode pay for both actors and especially writers. And what they see is that these streaming services like Netflix have enjoyed increasing profits over time. A very similar situation to the United Auto Workers. And then, of course, there have been changes since cable TV and the era of cable TV. Now, as we just talked about, there is so much binging of shows, right? So there's this increasing feeling that the writers have to constantly be on it. And now they've sort of kind of entered this like gig economy. So things have been very different for them. So what does this mean for us? Well, it means any upcoming movies that have not yet been filmed, or maybe even are in the process with A and B lists, maybe even C list actors and actresses, those are going to be put on hold. We cannot expect our favorite TV shows to be back on anytime soon, and promotional appearances and award shows, we can probably say that might be on pause as well. Here are some of the shows impacted. These are some of the more popular ones. I know, like Stranger Things, people are really into that. The Mandalorian, SNL, where I get the news, right? Kidding, kind of. Some of the late night shows were some of the first impacted because they write their scripts pretty quickly. Abbott Elementary, Family Guy. Yeah. So hopefully we can make a deal, but we'll see. So to wrap it up, some of these potential consequences when we talk about labor unionizations, labor strikes, what are the goods and the bads that can come out of it? And these come from a variety of sources. Most of the statistics or most of the pros and cons do come from the U.S. Treasury report. But one of them is that these potential pros could, if negotiations happen, can result in higher wages. Higher wages have been linked to improved work environments and higher productivity. And then also labor unions have been linked to a reduction in wage disparities between genders and races as well. We also find that those who are involved in unions have an improved sense of civic engagement. They are more likely to interact with government and promoting things that they believe beneficial for the public good. Obviously, there are also some cons, right? So what are some of the cons that can result from these long lasting strikes? Well, it may discourage foreign direct investment in the United States and could potentially lead to outsourcing. If our workers aren't going to work, we're going to send the jobs to people who will work. U.S. companies could become uncompetitive with their foreign rivals, kind of along those same lines. So it would be not too hard to send some of those auto workers' jobs to Mexico across the border. There could be a shift to automation. Why hire a worker who will walk off the job if a machine can do the same job? Disillusioned workers, if they're not able to come to a negotiation that is mutually beneficial. And then, of course, one of the things that we worry about is a rise in the price of products. I don't need new cars getting more expensive. So we are right at 8:30, and I thank you guys for joining us tonight. I will stick around for questions.
Thank you
Hey,
all.
Amanda. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. Sorry. I just wanted to remind everyone, I just put a link in the chat for the evaluation. If you can just take a minute to complete
Sure.
that, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely. And yeah, keep asking those questions. I will put up, just as our last slide, some of the upcoming virtual programs and in-person programs offered by FTE. All of these are amazing. The only one I haven't seen that I will also be attending is a new one, a webinar by Scott Beyer, a hard, soft, or no landing. And there are my babies. Oh yeah. Okay, so these are good. These are good. Fantastic. So again, I think Lisa placed in the chat an evaluation for tonight's program. Thank you guys for spending the evening with us. And I will also put my contact information here. if you have any questions, need to, talk through something with someone or just need some resources, that is one of the things that I love to do.